Welcome to the Run Diaries podcast. This is where we talk about managing your time in ways that helps you accomplish your running goals. Lace up to get your race up. Let's get moving. Hey, what's up everybody out there running on native land? And welcome to the Run Diaries podcast. I'm your host, Luis, aka Chico, and this is episode number 8. Thank you for spending some of your precious time listening to the show. I appreciate it. I'm definitely not going to waste it. Lace up to get your race up and let's get moving. We're at the starting line with this episode's guest, and she is definitely passionate about her occupation, community, and above all, humanity. She is a brand new ultra runner with a big game, and you'll soon find out that the trails and the mountains are her motivation. Erica Thomas, thank you for joining us here on the Run Diaries podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, definitely. This one is a conversation that I'm very, very excited about.
Me too.
So we finally had found the time to get our schedules to match up. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road. And Erica, give us an introduction.
Sure. So my name's Erica Thomas. I feel a little bit weird and honored to be here just because I just started running. I'm definitely not a runner, and we can talk more about that later too.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
But it's been interesting just listening to the podcast and hearing all the incredible things that all the other guests have done and are doing,
right?
Both in their lives and the running community. But yeah, I'm happy to be here.
That's great. How old are you?
I'm 28 years old, and yeah, I actually just made a pretty big life move. So
we'll get to that. Where are you located at the moment?
I'm currently in Davis, California. I just moved here from Montana.
Do you miss Montana at all?
I do. I miss it a lot.
Me too. Dear Montana, I miss you. So childhood, where did you grow up? What state do you call home?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I grew up in North Carolina. My whole family is still there. I'm super close with them. So it's definitely been hard because I haven't lived there for 10 years now.
Right.
So, my twin sister's in North Carolina. She's a paramedic there.
Okay.
And it's definitely hard being far away from them.
Oh, I can imagine. And I'm in the same situation. I have lived away from Montana for 10 years and miss it every day. So you said North Carolina is a state that you call home. I've never been there, but I did a little bit of research through Google. So I have some questions, and hopefully that'll give me and the listeners a better understanding of North Carolina. So question number 1, which state has the best fried chicken?
Oh, man. Well, I have to say North Carolina, don't I?
Well, I think so, because through my research, it shows Bojangles is a big fried chicken place there.
Yeah, huge. Like the equivalent of the In-N-Out in California.
Really?
As I understand it. Yeah, definitely big. Definitely big. There.
All right. So question number 2, what is Cheerwine? Am I saying this right? Cheerwine.
Oh my gosh, this is so fun because I haven't lived there in 10 years, so no one's asked me these questions. This is stuff that hasn't come up.
Yeah.
So, okay, I might get my North Carolina ability to see it as any part of myself revoked from this, if any North Carolinians are listening.
Okay.
Cheerwine's a soda, and yeah, it's just a soda, and I think it's red.
Okay.
I also haven't had it in 10 years. I want to say it has a cherry flavor.
Okay.
But my memory is telling me it's more just a red soda with a red flavor.
Is this something that we can order, or is it only sold in North Carolina?
I have no idea. I think these days you could probably order it, right?
I'm going to look at that, and I'm going to go ahead and if we can order it, I'm going to order something to give it a shot. Just from researching it online and just seeing all the comments, the feedback, and everything that they have, the actual website, I'm like very, very intrigued. And then your reaction to the question, I'm like, man, now I got to try it.
I hate to say this on something that
Go ahead.
prepare to be potentially underwhelmed. Like, I think if you just went to the store and bought a red soda, like those like just brand red sodas. But
Okay. Well,
I could be creating like a lot of yeah, that could be a hot topic. So I don't know what I'm saying.
Maybe it's the nostalgia.
Yeah.
That is probably what you're playing off of. But still, I'm intrigued by it, and I still want to try it.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so true or false? Everything tastes better in a mason jar.
I would say false.
Okay. And number 4, explain this phrase. Bless your heart.
Oh, man. I've actually never thought about what that phrase means. I've heard it a lot of times.
Okay. So through my research, it means like they're feeling sorry for you.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like people would say it to me too when I had done something that they were like proud of.
Okay.
Or that they approved of.
Like
maybe.
When you finish the rut, I should have said, bless your heart. Oh, man. We'll get to that. So you said you have an twin sister.
That's correct. Yeah.
Go ahead and give your sister a shout out.
Hey, Rachel. I love you. I'm proud of you. Keep doing what you're doing. She's awesome. She's a paramedic. She's been doing that for 5 or 6 years now, I think. And I'm so grateful for her. And yeah.
You know, I think through the script that you sent me, I've got this feeling because you did mention that and how close y'all were. My daughters are the same.
Mm-hmm.
They're not twins. They're 5 years apart, but they are very, very close. And I got that feeling that from your script that you sent me and everything. So family is something that I really promote and everything here. Are you guys identical twins?
Fraternal. We look very different. Yeah. People don't think we're twins or sometimes even sisters.
Who is the oldest?
She's older by 3 minutes. She never lets me forget it.
Nope. Does she ever use that to pull rank and when she was younger make you do things?
All the time. I was a pretty like strong-willed child is probably a nice way of saying it. I was probably a lot to handle as a twin sister. I'm like constantly apologizing to her these days.
Were y'all involved in sports?
So we were different. We both played field hockey, but then she loved to dance. So she stopped doing field hockey and she started dancing through high school. And then I played field hockey through high school, and then I did track and field one season, which this is like in line with Erica is not a runner.
Yeah.
But I went to the track and because I just wanted something in the spring to like do, like like an extra sport or activity. And so I went to the track and field tryouts and like with the new group, they like kept sending us to each of the different events that you do to see if that was what they were going to like put you in. So like the triple jump or the hurdles and each one, they just kept being like, maybe we'll send you to the next one. So I just kept getting sent around the track. And then finally they put me on 4x2 relay, which I was like in the 4x4, which I was okay at. But then my laziness took over And I realized that if you were a pole vaulter, I wouldn't have to compete in any of the meets because there were people who were better than me, but I could just hang out on the pole vault mats the whole practice. So yeah, that's
Well, bless your heart.
Thank you. Yeah, feeling sorry for myself. That first day of tryouts.
So, Erica, tell us about your career. Where has it taken you, and what experience opportunities has this provided for you?
Yeah, so I feel it feels a little surreal when I tell people that I'm meeting here about what I've gotten to do since I graduated. Right after graduation, I worked for a small nonprofit in Panama on community-based like education on environmental initiatives in an area that's a tropical dry rainforest. So it's a rainforest that has a dry season and a wet season.
Oh, okay.
And it's one of the most endangered ecosystems in the world right now. So we just worked a lot in the schools, different kind of like environmental education programs that my boss and I would do together. And then I worked for a year in the Dominican Republic with an organization that really focused on the rights of Dominicans of Haitian descent, because there's just been a lot of issues in that country, in the Dominican Republic, with people being brought over, you know, in the 60s to work the sugarcane fields from Haiti. And then they were established families there, as we all do as humans. And then the government in the Dominican Republic has just really done some awful things. They've retroactively revoked the citizenship of people who should be Dominican citizens, even if they identify as ethnically Haitian. So I worked there for a year. And then I was just like, the US really does not have its stuff together and hasn't since its inception, which you know much more than I do about the reality of that. But I had a friend, I lived in El Salvador for a bit during college and met my best friend there, and her daughter is my goddaughter now. Oh, nice. And my goddaughter's uncle was unfortunately detained in the US and deported. So just kind of like trying to support them through that process and watching him through that process and his family. I came back and coordinated free legal defense for detained immigrants in a detention center in the Southeast, actually near Fort Benning. I listened to your origin story with the Mountain Ultra director. And then after that, I worked in Montana for 3 years for civil legal aid. So our whole focus was civil legal services to people who needed an attorney and couldn't afford one in Montana.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for the support and listening to the Mountain Ultra podcast as well. Let's go back a little bit into the story. Through your experiences, you became fluent in Spanish, or were you fluent before that?
I would say I had studied it before, but I became fluent through my experiences. It's hard in a classroom to just obtain a level of fluency. And like in El Salvador, in Panama, I was speaking Spanish every day. There weren't other people around me who spoke English. So that cemented a lot of the knowledge.
Okay. And you said in Georgia, when you came back, that is where you headed the Free Legal Representation Project?
Yeah, so I helped launch one of the first offices. We have grown, the project has grown since I left it, but I was the first person hired by the project, and it was crazy. It was incredible, but like I moved to this tiny town next to this huge, notorious detention center in my family's old minivan. And couldn't find a house or a place to live for like a month. So I was just
Wow.
staying in this like hospitality house and living out of
Yeah.
a car and like working 70-hour weeks
Whoa.
sometimes.
What?
It was just it was so much. But I think the thing I was really proud of was by the time I left, like we were, and like the organization I worked for had a lot of resources too. I mean,
Yeah.
that was a huge help. And like there was there was two attorneys that they hired on site. And then we worked as a team of three.
Wow.
Um, and then there was like a bigger office in other cities and that did other type of legal work. So
So just up to this part in your story alone, I can sense that you have such strong mental stamina, so much fortitude and everything. And to top that off, you just started law school in August at the University of California, Davis School of Law. How's that going for you?
it is really hard. Um, it is so funny. I thought going into it,
Yeah.
I've done all these things. I've I feel like my mental game in the mountains and in life is really strong.
Yeah.
And I am so shocked by how much law school has rocked that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's and I can't put my I think it's just this environment of like, I don't know. I'm interested to see how this changes, but I think they give you so much work. They give you more than you'll ever, I think, be able to actually do.
Yeah.
And then everyone else is also this like incredibly smart, intelligent, driven, hardworking person. Yeah, it's interesting because there's a lot of overlap between like the mental approach to the rut and the
Yeah.
mental approach to law school. It's really hard not to look at what everyone else is doing and look at
Yeah.
what you're not doing,
Right.
even if it's not what you need to be doing or
Yeah.
you should be doing.
So there's a quote here that you say shapes your work. And the quote is, "If you have come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let's work together." And this is by Lila Watson, an
Mhm,
Aboriginal activist. Can
mhm.
you kind of go into detail about how this exemplifies your work?
Yeah. So there's all these problems in this world, right? Like no one's going to argue with
Right.
I just don't really see a life for myself where my dedication isn't involved in trying to address inequities or injustice, or I just don't really see a life where I'm not serving someone.
Right.
But I think if that's the work in life that I'm going to choose, then I need to be conscientious about how I approach it.
Yeah.
Because I don't come from a community that's really been targeted by the government or, kind of like cut off from resources. And so,
Yeah.
if I'm like in any of the work that I've done, right? Like if I'm going to go and say like, hey, I want to help, it's not because like, and this might sound really dramatic, but like, I am not free until you are free. So if you are not free, then I am not free. And therefore I should be here to follow you. Um,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. It's a
It
very
it
poor
does.
way
It
of saying
it
it.
does, and that's very powerful. That's something that, I think the world needs more of. You don't have social media, and you don't, and what you do have, you don't use very much.
Mhm,
Uh, Looking through on your Facebook profile, I did notice that you are helping spread the word for the murder and missing Indigenous women, and a few other indigenous issues.
mhm.
I see that you post those up there. So on behalf of the whole indigenous community, I want to say thank you for that.
There's no reason. I mean, yeah, no reason to think. It's like we've never been taught this, right? Everyone has to learn because
Right.
we purposefully weren't shown these things or taught about these things. Like it was so isolated
Yeah.
from everybody. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I totally understand. And Right there with you. And, people like you is what we need to help get the word out and everything. So uh, now that we have a better understanding of your occupation and your career path, can you explain how all of this has led you to running?
It's interesting. I was thinking about this last night because I feel like every time you have a life change, there's kind of an opportunity to re-look at who you are and
Yeah.
how you are walking through life and what you're prioritizing. And at one of my former jobs, I had a roommate who, or a very close person to me, who suffered or dealt a lot with alcoholism,
Yeah.
and really hadn't gotten to the point yet where they could not admit but see that that was an issue. And it was just really hard to watch them like go down that path for their own health and like physical and mental health wise. But also like living with them was was really really challenging as well. And
Yeah.
so I identified that like one of the reasons that they were doing this was because they were so stressed out by their situation at work. And I was
Okay.
also in a place where I was very stressed out by my
Yeah.
work situation. And so I just remember there was like this moment one evening where I think someone like offered me a drink or something. And it was almost like this out of body experience. Like I was so stressed out. I had had such a long day. And there was this other voice that came in and was like, Erica, there's one of two ways that this can go. Like you can use this drink as an escape mechanism and open a door that's like potentially going to be really unhealthy for you, or you can find another way to cope with your stress.
Right.
And so that's when I started running. There were some trails close to my house, and so I would just run. And I could feel if I didn't run, like by the third or fourth day,
Yeah.
I was feeling it again. Like I was feeling sad and I was feeling stressed out. And that just became like the way I handled stress.
At that time, like what state were you in?
Yeah, I was in Georgia.
Okay. Tell us about the trail that you were running on. Distance, what kind of terrain was it? Was there any elevation?
Yeah, so it was like a 7-mile loop at this state park called Providence Canyon.
Okay.
It was a trail. There was some hills, but I just think elevation isn't really, you're not getting like a ton of overall elevation gain and loss like you can out here out west. So, it was hilly and trailed, but
Okay.
not huge overall elevation gain.
How long in terms of years have you been running and entering events of any distance?
So I would say I probably started running 4 years ago, but that
Okay.
was because of that like coping, And then it was interesting when I moved to Montana, I think I became a lot like I was just happier, like I didn't really need it as much as this like coping mechanism.
Yeah.
But then I just started doing more things outdoors, and I started to find that like what I wanted to do outdoors required me to be strong. And one of the ways to like easily get that was through just a quick run
Yeah.
on weeknights. Like I'm so bad at going to the gym. I'm so bad at strength exercises. It is like absolutely my weakness if I'm going to keep doing long distances is my motivation is just to be outside. So like if it's outside, I'm happy, but I know that I need to be doing more like strength stuff. But it's been interesting because just to like wrap up the first question, I moved back to, so then I moved to, so I was really happy for 3 years. I didn't need running as much as a coping mechanism anymore. And then I've moved to Davis where like it's very flat. There's no trails. It's east of Sacramento, which is the capital of California. And I'm not as motivated to get out and run because there's not trails here. There's not the woods. There's not that like really like connection to what feels like nature and natural and wild. But I'm stressed out. I need, I need it every 3 days. I start to feel it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I totally understand. You said that you don't cross train much or lift or anything. Uh, but you did mention that one of the things that you and your significant other did in Montana was a lot of backcountry skiing. Tell us about this. And did you find that beneficial to your running in any aspect, such as weather acclimation or promoting muscle endurance?
yeah, so my partner is a wonderful man named Cody, and he became kind of my main backcountry partner last season. Yes, it helps so much. Um, it's in terms of like elevation gain and just getting acclimated to the elevation. Like I wasn't really worried about functioning in the rut because, I'd been all winter skiing at like
Yeah.
9,000 or 10,000 feet. And then you also don't like, you're building up a lot of quad muscle, I think, from skiing downhill, but then you've
Okay.
also got that kind of like consistent uphill. So it was super helpful, and it was super helpful too because coming off winter, I feel like I would have been really like I felt like I was just in really good shape, really strong overall in
Yeah.
May and June when you kind of start thinking about like running. Yeah.
Yeah. So as a new ultra runner, congratulations, by the way.
Thanks.
Would you rather run on the beach or in the mountains?
In the mountains. 100%.
Of course, I knew you were going to say this. But per our conversation, you love being in the mountains, and it was a love that was passed on to you from your father.
Hmm.
And one of the statements that really, really touches me is the moments there are what kept my soul filled, myself happy, and my life balanced.
Hmm.
Can you kind of explain this? The love passed on to you from your father?
Yeah. So I feel like a lot of kids, it might be, I don't know what everyone else's experience is, but like we didn't have huge mountains where I grew up, but my dad like loves just being in nature in general. And so he will kind of find like natural beauty anywhere.
Yeah.
So, we'd like always go on hikes in like the woods near our house. The Appalachian Mountains are like 2 hours from where we grew up.
Okay.
He just instilled this love in me and my sister that I don't know that we would have had. And so we started, because like there were
Yeah.
times when we were 9 or 10 and we were like, I don't want to go.
Yeah.
This is my friends like get to watch TV, you know,
Yeah.
like, we've got to do this on a Saturday morning or whatever. Um, but over time, I'm just so grateful because it just created this appreciation. And it's something he and I still get to share together. Like he came out to Montana last summer with my
Oh,
sister,
nice.
and we spent a week backpacking in the Scapegoat Wilderness, just south of the Bob Marshall Wilderness. So,
Heck yeah.
and yeah, it's like everything just kind of all troubles, concerns, they kind of, you work through them in the mountains and they also feel just a little bit less like
Right? So,
urgent.
yeah. Yeah. So, again, I want to read this statement. The moments there are what keep my soul filled, myself happy, and my life balanced. There are so many of us that love the mountains, and it is very hard to put into words. And I think that statement alone encompasses that feeling. So, thank you for that.
Yeah.
So, we crossed paths at the Rut, and personally, I thought it was a super tough course. It was literally probably the toughest course that I've ever run.
Yeah.
And to top that off, this was your very first ultra. How did this come to be?
Because I'm so stupid. I don't think about consequences.
Bless your heart.
No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, so I know you asked this earlier, but I just ran because like it was a stress mechanism or my friends did it, but I never really like saw myself as a runner. I still don't really, honestly. And Like I never really signed up for any. I'd never run any organized races except in college. My friend Tiffany one time signed me up for a 10K. So,
Okay.
that was my last like organized race, I think. Oh, I
Yeah.
think I ran the Ragnar in college too, actually. A
Okay.
group of friends and I did that. Ran the Ragnar together. But that was like when I was 20 and then life happened
Yeah.
and so I started running again, like we talked about. And then I actually had some friends in Montana who were training for the Rut 3 years ago.
Okay.
And so I would go on these training runs with them
Yeah.
every once in a while. And most of them would just be like an hour or so. But then I went on a run with one of my friends, one of her longer runs. And I think it was like just over 20 miles
Okay.
in like 5,000 feet elevation.
Oh,
And
wow.
I hadn't been training at all for running.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I think I could. Okay, I did that. Like I walked a lot of it. It was probably not the training day she wanted. I was mostly walking that it all. But then I volunteered to like at the Rut because a bunch of friends were doing it. So I volunteered at one of the aid stations 3 years
Okay.
ago. And it was so cool, just like seeing everyone, seeing the energy, seeing what people accomplished and were capable of. And
Yeah.
I just got inspired and signed up. It was like sign up now, think about this issue later.
Yeah. So walk us through this experience on the Rut, and let's start at the beginning. Which wave did you start in?
I started in wave 2 at the end of wave 2.
How far behind wave 1 was that?
5 minutes, I think.
Did y'all hit a bottleneck?
Yes.
Going okay.
Huge
Man.
bottleneck.
Yeah, like in our wave, it was the same thing. And I mean, this is my first time. I'm just kind of like following everybody. And yeah, once we got there, it was just like, all right, it's like SpongeBob trying to all the sardines trying to fit in that one bus.
Yeah. I wonder if they do that on purpose, just so people don't go out like people have to rest a little bit.
Oh
'Cause
yeah.
if people don't go out like too fast and then
It probably adds a little bit of spacing out there on
yeah.
the single track too. So yeah, I can see that being a reason why they do it and everything.
Yeah.
So Erica, what do you think was the toughest part or parts of this run?
Honestly, the lead up, like I was so nervous. I was just constantly worried. And I was just like, oh, I see why people don't sign up for a 50K for their first race
Yeah.
in 10 years, because the Ragnar is like, you do 20 miles, but it's split over 3 shifts. So you're like a running team. So I
Yeah.
think I did like, and I was obviously not the runner on our team. So they put me on the easiest legs. So it's like, I think I did like 6, 6, and 4 or something like that. I was just so nervous. I was so nervous
Yeah.
last summer. And the elevation is huge.
Ooh,
And I've
yes.
heard that, like, it's not just the 50K. I think it's 10,600 elevation gain.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
they were like, that's what gets you.
yes, definitely. When I was leaving Swift Current, that was a mental gut check for me. I felt like I was leaving the Shire and venturing up Mount Doom with all these filthy hobbitses, trying to, look for my precious. You see people up there and they're so tiny. I'm like, that cannot be the way we're going. And I'm like, oh my God, it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. I feel like that's where like the really strong mental game kicked in.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm just not going to think about that. Like I didn't even think about having to get up there because I didn't want to. I just like put one foot in front of the other and just went up.
Yeah, definitely. What was your favorite sign out there that if you can remember any?
Oh, I don't think I remember any signs.
So I don't remember any slogans per se. All I remember was the one dude who
The guy.
Right? You already
Yeah.
know. He was like had nothing on except for the sign in front of him, and it was just I don't remember what the sign said, but
It
like
said run fast. So it was this, he looked naked and it said, and he was holding over his, where his underwear would have been, a sign that said run faster or I dropped the sign.
oh, that's what it was.
And what's interesting too is like he definitely dropped the sign for me every time because I was not running faster. And um he had on a different Speedo every time. I
Oh
was like,
man.
"You not only did this, but you changed." Like
Yeah.
he changed his Speedo 4 or 5 times during the race.
Man.
Yeah.
During the run, what personal challenges, if any, did you encounter that added another level of difficulty to your run? Such as, did you get enough nutrition, any problems with your gear, or mental challenges?
Yeah. So, mentally, I was actually, like, so happy the entire like, I was just so happy the entire time.
Yeah.
I like, it was funny, a couple of friends said to Cody, my boyfriend Cody, they were like, "I think Erica could be leaving a little bit more on the course right now," because I also had a goal to dance at every aid station because they have such great music. So
Yes.
even at, like, the top of Lone Peak, I was dancing, and I think, like, at Swift Current, I was dancing, and I think my friends are just like, "Erica, you could be going faster right now, like, this is not energy that you should have."
Yeah.
I was just so happy. I was so happy because I think the hardest part leading up to the race was how nervous I was because I'd never done anything like that before,
Yeah.
and my only goal was to finish it, and so when I started doing it, I was
Yeah.
so happy because every step was like me doing it.
Heck yeah.
But I did run into some issues, so I had a Camelback and then, like, a soft flask for
Yeah.
electrolytes, and coming off Lone Peak, the sippy part of my soft flask
Oh, yeah.
broke off. So luckily I had water in my Camelback. I just found that, and then I fixed it at the next aid station. I tried to stop and fix it, but I couldn't really. I definitely got some blisters. I feel like that's inevitable. I did, like, weirdly, so my left leg, I would say about 18 miles in maybe. I think it sounds like it's something that's, like, just talking to friends, something that's pretty common with runners, but, like, I don't know if my left hamstring and calf were quite as strong as my right,
Yeah.
and so the tendons, I think, just got overused, and they started to just feel swollen.
Yeah.
And it wasn't painful, but it did not like, it was kind of like, "Okay, this isn't how this is supposed to feel."
Yeah. Like almost like a feeling like it's on a verge of getting hurt if you
Yeah,
step
and
a
so
certain
that
way.
really kept me pretty controlled for the rest of it because I was just like, "I don't really know what this is. I don't know what's going on. Like, my only goal is to finish this race." So it felt fine. There was, like, a huge my toe, I think, got my big toe got j like, just the stuff that, like, you put your body through something, there's
Yeah.
stuff gonna come up. Um, and then, my I think, like everyone, nutrition was hard for me that day. Like, I did what you're not supposed to do. I kinda ate a different breakfast than I normally
Oh,
do.
yeah.
Just all the things they tell you not to, you know, and then I was just, like, eating all the food at the aid stations because 'cause I'm like, "This is free food." And then it was just stuff that I wasn't used to eating on my, like, long days out, so, yeah.
So the Rut is a cupless race. Did you carry a cup with you, or did you just throw everything in a soft flask?
I had a tiny little, paper cup that I smushed up and
Okay.
lasted the whole race.
Yeah, they rightfully so, especially with all the COVID and everything, but
Mhm,
they really stuck to that. And
mhm,
I think we all appreciate as runners, we all appreciate that, especially for our own health and everything.
mhm.
For nutrition, did you use specifically what they had there, or did you bring anything with you?
I did bring stuff with me, so I brought just, like, a variety because I think for me, I was like, "I don't really know what I'm gonna feel like eating, but I know I
Yeah.
need to eat something."
Yeah.
So I had like a bar and then also some like a pro bar with like the chocolate peanut butter and then also some pro bar gummies.
Yeah.
And then weirdly some like just like a turkey stick just in case. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna be feeling. Like I'm just gonna be prepared. And and then I did have a Perpetuum packet,
Oh, nice.
Hammer Perpetuum.
Yeah.
And I think that's what got me up Lone Peak. But yeah, it was hard because especially with like the Cliff Bar or the Pro Bar, like I knew I would feel better if I ate it, and I
Yeah.
did. But it was hard to get stuff down for sure.
The Perpetuum that you talked about, that is one of the things, the products that I bring with me
Mhm.
on all my long runs. However, I don't bring the Perpetuum powder. I bring the
Mm.
Perpetuum solids. So it's the same product, but it comes in a tablet form. So you literally just throw it in your mouth and slowly chew it, and it's the same thing. So might be something you want to look into if you continue with that product and everything.
That's a yeah, actually the other thing I used was the Hammer Endurolite like electrolyte pills.
Yes,
Uh,
that oh,
yeah,
man.
my friend Sarah got me onto those. So she was like, you just take 2 every hour. And I had kind of been training with them, but
Yes,
not like 2 every hour. I was like, that's a lot. But I did it and I did
yeah,
not cramp.
yeah.
Yeah.
For me, of course, each runner is different. I zeroed in on 1 per hour at the top
Mhm.
of every hour. That's what I was taking and everything. But for you and all the listeners out there, if you want to have a discount on some Hammer Nutrition products, you can use the code 329773.
Oh,
Uh,
awesome.
yeah,
Thank
so
you.
you're welcome. So just create a profile on there, uh, put in that code at the end. That is my discount code and everything. So yeah, that's for you and for everybody out there that's listening. So what shoes did you run in during the rut?
The Lone Peak Ultras.
And you said you got blisters?
I got a few,
Okay.
yeah, on my big left toe and actually on my like the arch of my right foot. But it was cool. Something that like my partner talked about was like, because he had done the 25K like 6 years ago,
Yeah.
I think. So he was just telling me like something that he had heard from people who do this is like you just do a scan of your body. So if you're starting to get tired or not feel great, or even just throughout the run, you like start at your feet and you like think about each area of your body and you scan all the way up
Yeah.
to your head. Like, do I have it? And so it's like, and you stop and you take care of what you
Oh,
need to
wow.
take care of because
Yeah.
it's so easy to just be like, it's not a big deal. I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah.
Um, and so like I would do that scan. So at Swift Current, I stopped. I put on, I like it. I wanted to keep going, but you're seeing everybody else like blaze through the aid station and, people that you had passed. But I was just like, nope, this was what my scan said. So I stopped. I taped up my right blister. If I had a head, like once you get to your head, do you have a headache? Okay, I took some ibuprofen, stuff like that.
With the blisters and everything, did you have any other issues with your shoes, i.e., do you still have all your toenails?
I do. I do
Okay.
still have it was touch and go on 2 for a couple weeks after. As of now, both of them are still on, so
Okay, good. And for the entirety of the rut, did you change shoes at all, or did you run in the one pair?
just ran in the one pair.
That's the same thing with me. I anticipated having to change shoes at Swift Current,
Mhm,
and I didn't. I was coming prepared and everything, and they give you the small drop bag.
mhm.
I did not know that those were for us to have and everything.
Yeah.
And so like at the end of the run and everything, I went to get my drop bag stuff out of there.
Uh-huh.
So I took everything out and I had everything in my hands, and I was giving the bag back to the volunteer, and I was just like, "Here you go." And I was like, "Thank y'all." And she goes, "Oh no, the bag is yours." And I'm like, "Oh wait, what?" So it kind of added like another, like, I felt like I got another prize at the end of the rut, you know?
Yeah.
So we crossed paths just after mile 22, which is the Shedhorn water only aid station.
Mhm.
From there, it was 4.5 miles to the andesite aid station, which is the last one on the course.
Mhm.
For me, us crossing paths happened at the exact right time because I sprained my ankle right at the beginning of our conversation. You ran the rest of the way with me, and I was running to the best of my ability. Um, I was overcompensating with the ankle sprain. The other side was starting to, pick up all the slack and everything. My quad started to go early and everything. So
Mhm.
I want to thank you for helping me through that because, man, getting over that little mental hump, it was pretty challenging and everything. And having you right there with me and talking me through, and it helped me get to the next aid station where I needed to be.
I mean, I think it was mutual. Like, at the end of the race, everyone talks about the dark place, and
Yeah.
I was starting to get to a dark place right before that water only aid station. I, like, really wasn't feeling well. Nobody talks about, like, what going to the bathroom is like during the
Yes,
ultra.
man.
And so, like, I really had to poop. Like, I, like, really needed to, and I was like, "I feel like I'm gonna throw up." So I had actually, like, gone into the woods to try and go to the bathroom to, like,
Uh,
sort my stomach stuff out. I was
yeah.
running toilet paper and just, like, wasn't really feeling good. I think I heard someone, like, throwing up, like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
up on the road. I was like, "Oh god, don't listen to it." And then I, like, came up and I was just like, "Okay, we gotta keep going." And then that's when I saw you when I got back on the road. And all my friends talked about how that 4 miles was the dark place for them.
Oh, yeah.
And I
Mhm.
was just like, I met the most incredible person. Like, I didn't even remember we were running because it was so cool to talk to him, and it was mutual, for sure. It was so mutual. You got me through that too.
Oh, I definitely appreciate the help, and yes, I'm here to support, you as well as any other runner because I know how that feels and everything.
Mhm.
But you talked about things that we don't talk about. Somebody fell off of the mountain out there.
Yeah.
To my understanding, he's okay and everything. But I also think that the runners behind him weren't able to finish. I think they stopped him at the top of the mountain, to my understanding.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, like I said, I don't know that to be true or not. But yeah, just from what I was hearing, any runner that was a certain distance back from him and the aides start coming, they had to stop them and kind of just like, all right, hey, we'll see you guys later. You guys are done. So I don't know if that DNF'd them because of that or because of a safety reason.
Mhm.
But yeah, those cutoff times, they were sticking to them pretty tight,
Mhm.
which is for our safety. So yeah, definitely
Mhm.
appreciate all that. And one of the things that replay in my head is you telling everybody that they're doing great. And it's such a enlightening feeling when you hear a voice come out of nowhere and it's just like, you're doing awesome. And I was just like, yes. All right, let's get going. And you said that to so many people. Like, I don't know if you realize this, but you and I, between when we were making our way to the andesite aid station, we passed a lot of people. Like, we start picking up the pace. And like,
Okay.
yeah, and I didn't want to say anything because I was like, all right, the ankle, yeah, we just got to get over that. And so
Oh,
this was
no.
kind of my way. And I was just like, all right, let's go. Let's go. To me, it was like I was taking less time on my ankle and everything. I was like using it more often, but I wasn't adding a lot of pressure onto it. So that for me, it worked and everything. But
Yeah.
but the reason I'm saying this is because like everyone we passed, you would just be like, "You're doing awesome." So yeah, definitely shows how every runner is there for each other and everything.
Yeah.
So
How is your ankle? Is it
oh,
okay?
yeah, it's definitely fine.
Okay.
Kind of going back into my story a little bit, and I was talking about changing shoes. The shoes I was going to change into was the Ultra Olympus.
Mhm.
And it's a good thing that I did not because they have a little bit more, you know, flexibility in them.
Mhm.
And so the shoes that I was running in was the Hoka Speed Goat, and they
Mhm.
don't have that give.
Mhm.
Uh, After the run and everything, I was back home in Montana, and we went on a hike, and I wore the Olympus, the shoes that I
Mhm.
would have changed into,
Mhm.
and the rocks with that little bit of movement that they're allowing, like I was
Mhm.
twisting my ankle a lot. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a really good thing that I did not change into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for asking. The ankle is fine now.
Good. Good.
We at Andesite is where we drifted apart and everything. Tell me about the last part of that race and crossing the finish line, how great and amazing the feeling was.
So I there's like you and I kind of separated right before we got to the aid station. And there's that like uphill, that last
Yeah.
like super steep uphill before you get
Yes.
onto a flat road. And my partner was right there at the top cheering me, and he had walked all the way down to where people were there.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have done that race if there weren't people cheering, like, if I didn't have support and friendly
Yeah.
faces at the aid station.
Yeah.
Another reason I say I'm not a runner, I was, like, very codependent on my friends' energy. Um, and then I was like, "We gotta, cheer Luis in, we gotta cheer Luis in." So he and I, like, hiked up, and then I think we cheered you in, and then I just felt so I had been like my big I'd never done anything like this before. I had no idea what it looked like.
Yeah.
And I think like it was funny what Angel was talking about one of your last guests where she was like at the end like maybe I could have done more, you know?
Yes.
Cuz like I just had no idea how I was supposed to pace myself because I had never done anything like that before. And so
Yeah.
I was like, at the last aid station, I was like, I feel good. And
Yeah.
I think I ran like an 11-minute mile for the last 5 miles or
Wow.
something.
Heck yeah.
And that last uphill, it kills you. There's like this one last uphill. But then coming around the finish line, my friend Catherine was there. And that, like what you and Scott talked about of like, just that moment,
Yeah.
it's just like a higher level, like inwardly, like in yourself.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
yeah, I definitely cried of happiness there
Yes.
on the race course, like,
Yes, definitely.
because I think, and it was funny after I crossed the finish line, I just had this adrenaline and I was like running around. And my partner's friend Kurt was like, why is she running? She should be like just a mess on.
Yeah.
And I couldn't walk for like 3 or 4 days after the race. So I
Yeah.
like know I put a lot out there, but it was amazing. I mean, it's like right now, all you're remembering is the beauty of that moment and the beauty of the race. And I'm like, I'm signing up next year.
Yep. Definitely.
I'm like not remembering how stressful the whole lead up was.
So wait now, are you signing up for next year?
I would like to. Yeah.
I am signing up for next year. Right after the run, I was like, yes, I'm done. It's off of my plate.
Yeah.
And then as time went on, like, yeah, I'm gonna sign up again. So if you
Yeah.
do, I'll see you there.
Yeah. And
Uh,
I don't want people to think like, oh, she didn't cross train and then she just like I do a lot like, and then she just did this. Like I did a lot. The way I trained for the rut was I would do like 2 or 3 days, like to run twice a week, just super easy
yeah,
runs. And then one day a week, I would just get out and do a huge day in the
yeah,
mountains, like a 14 to 20-mile day.
right,
And I had heard that like if you can do the equivalent of 2/3 of the race, you should be okay on race day. And so
nice,
I like upped my big day
yeah,
gradually throughout the summer and then I just did a lot of like I like to climb and bike. And
yeah.
so I was doing that stuff as well. So anything outdoors, I'm there doing it. Yeah.
It looks like Blue wants to say hi to you. So
Hey. Oh, so sweet.
Oh, hi, Erica.
Oh man, what type of dog are they?
He's a Weimaraner.
Oh man.
Yeah, he's full grown, but he thinks he's the baby of the family. So
Does he run with you?
he does. He is one of the big reasons that I picked up mileage.
Mhm.
Having a dog in my personal philosophy,
Mhm.
it gives you a reason to not be indoors.
Mhm.
It gives you a reason to get outside because as much as we need it, they need it
Mhm.
just as much.
Mhm.
So, yeah, he's my running partner. He is the protector of this family, and
Mhm.
love that guy so much.
Mhm.
Let me talk about my last leg of the rut
Mhm.
and everything.
Yeah.
So I was still overcompensating and everything, and I felt I was okay. I got a good walk in, and then my excuse me, quads start to cramp and everything.
Mhm.
And I was out of Endurolights at the time, and I literally was just like, okay, I think I'll be okay if I start walking these hills. I'm like, the watch says that I should be nearing the finish line. What are we doing going back uphill? And I'm like, man, all these switchbacks are getting me. And so,
Yeah.
and so, like, looking at my watch and knowing that I should be coming, that is what kept me going and everything. So, to alleviate the weight off of my legs, I literally took my pack off and I was carrying it in my arm. And
Wow.
yeah, and so that helped me get through and everything. One of the big things that I'm proud of
Mhm.
is, first of all, to the sponsor that was handing out beer at the end.
Mhm.
Thank y'all for doing that. But
Mhm.
for me personally, running by and having that moose mascot, reach out and give
Mhm.
you a beer, like,
Mhm.
I respectfully declined it.
Mhm.
And crossing that finish line, like, I can't express how overcome with joy, and it was a very, very spiritual moment for me.
Mhm.
I finished my first run in Montana,
Mhm.
my first ultra in Montana, and it was that one. And so I was really overcome with emotion. And then to add to that was you and your crew come running out into the gates and was hugging me, and like, as tired and sore and beat up as I was already, like, I had this burst of energy to celebrate that moment and everything. And so, like, it was just like it came full circle at the
Yeah.
right time. And so,
Yeah.
to you and your crew, thank you so much for making that moment extra special for me.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
All right, so let's move into these questions here. These are going to be some warm up questions before we move into the 5 to stay alive. So, since you're a new ultra runner, these questions will definitely help other runners that are aspiring to eventually get into ultra running. So, how do you stay motivated when you do not want to train?
I think for me, like in Montana, so much of my motivation just came from stuff that was fun.
Yeah,
Like I loved biking and I love skiing. And so it was just kind of like I would just if even if I just got out, I would say, okay, that was good,
yeah,
for that. I think here my motivation, like I said, is more from stress, but it's definitely something I struggle with. I think that like being signed up for something in its own way is motivating because you're like, you kind of got to do this today. Like you can't make excuses.
yeah.
But it's hard. I don't know that I have a great answer. I think it's like whatever works for you. I
Okay.
think for me, I think about it more as like how many days have passed since I've done something. So if I start, because it's so easy to make, like, especially in law school, to
Yeah,
make, it's not a 9 to 5. Like, I just feel like I'm working all the time. And
yeah.
so it's so easy for me to make an excuse to not get out.
Right.
And I think for me, like, if 3 days have passed and I haven't, that's my timeline. Like, if 3 days have passed and I haven't done
Yeah,
something
yeah.
active, even if it's not running, that's when I'm like, okay, Erica, like even if it's just, I don't know, an hour of like a YouTube yoga.
All right. On race day, what is your number one worry? And how do you overcome a worry that keeps reoccurring to you?
So I've only done the one race, and I think my biggest worry was not finishing.
Okay.
And my friend Kirsa told me 3 tips that
Okay.
she heard from other people. One was run your own race. So don't worry about what other people are doing. Don't worry about what wave they're starting in. Are they stopping at this aid station? Are they going faster? Are they going slower? Like, you run your own race.
Nice.
2 is go in with 0 expectations and surprise yourself.
Nice.
And 3 is enjoy every minute. Like, even the pre-race anxiety, be grateful that like you've gotten to that point where this is something that you can be nervous about, you know? Yeah.
Those are great tips, and I'll stand behind those. All right. What advice would you give to a runner that is wanting to increase their mileage to be able to run an ultra?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I think my advice would be pretty specific to people who live closer to mountains, but I think it's just to start doing like really long days in the mountains.
Okay.
I think when you think about ultra running, there's this focus of like, you have to be running. And
Yeah.
a big knowledge or learning lesson for me was like, the rut is more of a hike run, like especially with the elevation.
Oh, yes.
And so if you want to increase your mileage for especially like ultra mountain runs, I think the helpful thing for me was just doing a 15 to 18 mile hike, in a day, even if I didn't run any of it, building up that way just by hiking in the mountains and then working and running once you get that more hiking mileage under your belt.
All right. And I think this question is going to help everyone. What are great gift ideas for a runner, such as for holidays or birthdays?
I love socks for everything.
Yeah.
I love socks. And then I think the nutrition stuff, like the like figuring out what they like nutrition wise, and maybe that.
Yeah.
Just because the thing I like about running is it doesn't use a ton of gear, and people mostly have what they want specifically, I think. But you're always eating, other people on the show have talked about Tailwind or Hammer. You're always ingesting that.
One of the things that I'm noticing as a trend right now is we're downsizing gear and everything. As far as what you take out with you, everything is starting to become more compact and more user friendly. When I was getting into running, I've noticed a lot of gadgets, I guess you would call them, and everything for the runners and everything. And like I'm saying, the trend now is minimizing all this stuff and everything. So I think you're right on point with that one. Well, thank you for those answers. And I hope everyone out there in podcast land found this useful and could put some of this advice into practice for them. And now, Erica, since this is your episode, and before we move on, is there anything that you'd like to add to the agenda?
No, I think so.
Yeah. And now, welcome to the 5 to Stay Alive. These are the questions that I ask every guest about themselves and what keeps them going. Contestant Erica, are you ready for the 5 to Stay Alive?
Yes, I am.
Question number 1. Do you run with or without music?
I usually run without music.
Okay.
Especially if it's in trails. Like if I'm in the woods, I won't run with music or in the mountains because I just want to be there and present. If I'm doing a night run around my neighborhood, I might put a podcast on, or I'll probably put music on.
Okay. So when you are listening to music, what is one power song that is on your running playlist that motivates you?
That's a great question. The one that comes to mind, I think it's called El Marido de Tu Mujer.
Okay.
I don't remember who it's by, but it just has this like upbeat, it just like, it automatically like picks your pace up, even if you were kind of dragging before.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to look for that song and I'll bounce that off you to make sure it's the right one. And we're going to put that on the Spotify guest playlist for all the listeners out there to download. And this song is going to be a representation of you. Everyone out there in podcast land, you can go to the Run True Diaries Spotify page and download the guest playlist. It's uploaded after my guests add their song and contains the songs that keep them motivated and keep them running. Question number 2. What are some things in your life that have positively changed since you've started running?
I think everything.
Okay.
I feel happier. I feel healthier.
Yeah.
There's like the physical health, there's the mental health. It's amazing to just feel strong, to like
Yes.
go out and do 6 or 7 miles and know that, 5 years ago, that was like not what you would have thought you had done.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of start changing into other, like, I feel like it trickles into all these other habits. Like I sleep better, I'm eating better.
Yeah.
I really don't drink that much at all, but I went like fully sober for the rut and stay mostly sober if I'm like training, it just is also, it just is everything. Like everything changes for the positive.
Well, that's a good thing to hear and everything. Question number 3. In your opinion, what is one thing that an athlete should avoid in their journey to becoming a better runner?
I think looking at what other people are doing and thinking what you're capable of, or finding reasons why you think you're not capable of something.
Yeah.
Like you have no idea what you're capable of.
Yes, definitely.
And I don't say that in a mean way. I mean like in an incredible way. We have no idea what we're capable of.
Yeah. My mom used to say, you never know what you can do until you try.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I'll tell you, ultra running, I think a lot of people who just get out there and, put some effort into it,
Mm-hmm.
they are amazed with the results that they are finding.
Mm-hmm.
Question number 4. Finish this statement. When it comes to long distance running, Erica cannot leave the house without her.
I think if I'm going on like a big day in the mountains and it'll be exposed.
Yeah.
Like I'll be above tree line, I'll bring this like Houdini Patagonia lightweight layer.
Okay.
And that's just really nice. It like compresses down super small.
Yeah.
If weather moves in or you get cold, it's really good to have. And if you call up the Patagonia outlets and ask if they have last seasons, they'll ship them to you for free. It's like $20 or $30 instead of like the full market price.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
well, that's a great tip right there. Now I got to, right after this podcast, I'm getting on the website to check that out.
Yeah. Yeah. But you have to call the outlets, like the Dillon outlet or the Reno outlet, because they sell the prior seasons on reduced price. So,
okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Question number 5. Do you have a running mantra?
Our bodies are incredible.
Yes.
That's what I just said the whole race. I was just like yelling it at the top of everywhere. And I saw someone just at like mile 11.
Yeah.
And I was like, how are you doing? You're doing great. And he was like, oh, I'm okay. Still feeling like a long day. And I just was like, even if you stopped now, you still just ran 11 miles.
Right?
That's incredible. Like our bodies are incredible. And I just said that to myself the entire race of the rut.
That's awesome. Hey, Erica, that is all the questions that I have for you. Is there anything that you want to go back, touch up on, or add to the podcast before we close this episode out?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, Erica, it was definitely an honor to have you and have this conversation. Your inclination to serve communities at home and abroad is selfless, altruistic, and appreciated. As a runner, your mental fortitude to stay the course and continue grinding in the face of pain and adversity is admirable. This podcast episode is definitely a testament to the friendly and supportive trail running community as well as your character. Thank you for helping me when I needed it most, and thank you for being a guest on the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're definitely welcome. And we'll see you out there in the trails, hopefully the Rut Run next year.
Sounds great.
All right, bye. We're approaching the finish line, but before we cross, here's some news and views. That was Erica Thomas. And whether in person or not, the trail running community is a largely supportive community. And when I started this podcast, I wanted to inspire runners of all abilities while providing them with information from each of the episode's guests and our respective conversation. While Erica was explaining the feeling of completing her first ultramarathon, she recalls commentary from two of the previous guests, in whose comments she was able to connect with during her ultra running experience. Let's listen.
I'd never done anything like this before. I had no idea what it looked like.
Yeah.
And I think it was funny what Angel was talking about, one of your last guests, where she was like, at the end, maybe I could have done more.
Yes.
Because I just had no idea how I was supposed to pace myself, because I had never done anything like that before. And so I was at the last aid station, I was I feel good. And I think I ran an 11-minute mile for the last 5 miles or something.
Wow. Heck yeah.
And that last uphill, it kills you. There's this one last uphill. But then coming around the finish line, my friend Catherine was there. And I just, what you and Scott talked about of just that moment, it's just a higher level, inwardly, in yourself.
Definitely.
Yeah. I definitely cried of happiness there.
Yes.
On the race course.
Yes, definitely.
Because I think, and it was funny, after I crossed the finish line, I just had this adrenaline. And I was running around, and my partner's friend Kurt was like, "Why is she running? She should be just a mess on."
Yeah.
And I couldn't walk for 3 or 4 days after the race, so I put a lot out there. But it was amazing. I mean, it's right now, all you're remembering is the beauty of that moment and the beauty of the race. And I'm signing up next year.
Yep,
I'm not remembering how stressful the whole lead up was.
Thank you, Erica, for that enlightening conversation, the insightful thoughts, the support during the Rut Run, and for being a guest on the Run True Diaries podcast. It was definitely a pleasure to have you. So keep moving and keep improving, and we'll see you on the next run. Next, here's an update on the Spotify guest playlist. We are currently up to 10 songs, with the latest additions being Sisters by The Hallucination, submitted by Joel Kennedy in episode number 6, Get Down by Nas, submitted by Justin Gay PhD in episode number 7, and Erica is submitting Pepas by Faruko. In keeping with this theme, I'm going to add one of my favorite running songs, and that is Corazón Espinado by Santana. So there you go, and that brings this playlist to 12 songs. And with that, we have crossed the finish line. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or guest recommendations, contact me at runshoe.diaries@gmail.com. Again, that is runshoe.diaries@gmail.com. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Keyword search Run True Diaries. Thank you for listening to the Run True Diaries podcast, episode number 8 with Erica Thomas. Until next time, remember that with each step comes the decision to take another. So keep putting one foot in front of the other, because it's amazing what you can do on your own 2 feet. I'm out.